Our final pre-lunch session is a panel discussion on enhancing manufacturing competitiveness, product mix, supply chain agility and efficiency. May I invite the moderator, Mr. Gautam Nair, Director, Matrix Design and Industries Private Limited. Presently, he is an Eco Honours from St. Stephen's College, Delhi University and PGDBM from IIM Ahmedabad. Mr. Gautam had set up Matrix Clothing Private Limited in the year 1980 and led the same to become India's premier manufacturer export of apparel brands in USA and Europe. He is an elected member of Executive Committee of AEPC and past chairman for 2 terms for CII National Committee on Textiles and Apparel. I now invite the distinguished panelists one by one, Mr. Pallab Banerjee, Managing Director and Group President, Pearl Global Industry Private Limited. He is experienced in apparel sourcing, manufacturing, strategies and operations. Mr. Pallab Banerjee, MD and Group President, Pearl Global Industries Limited, has over 30 years of global experience in apparel sourcing and supply chain strategic solutions. He is able to devise competitive and long-term strategies and provide profitable and sustainable solutions for sourcing or manufacturing of apparel. He has built strong relationships and led motivated teams towards achieving greater results. I now invite Mr. Shiran Boteju, Chief Operating Officer, Brandix India, on the stage, please. He is currently COO, Brandix India region and is leading strategic operational initiatives across Brandix India operations, driving performance, innovation and organizational growth. Earlier, Shiran, as Head HR of India and Sri Lanka BEL cluster, had spearheaded strategy and execution across geographies, fostering a culture of inclusion, leadership development and organizational transformation. Mr. Boteju is an MBA from PG Institute of Management, Colombo and a certified professional transformational coach. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Deepak Rautela, AVP, Training and Organizational Development at Shahi Exports Private Limited. He is the Associate Vice President of Training and Organizational Development at Shahi Exports with an experience of over 20 years in this field. Mr. Deepak has honed his expertise in worker training and well-being, leadership development and designing organizational development strategies. He leads a team dedicated to identifying and developing talent across hierarchies and also designing interventions oriented towards worker well-being. Mr. Deepak holds an MBA and had been trained as a certified director L&D in North America. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I want to add to our distinguished panelists here by inviting Vasant Sridhar. He needs no introduction, you just listen to him. And some of what he said was so interesting that I requested him and he very kindly agreed to join us for a while. Vasant, please come up. Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by congratulating Tony Uppal, Ranil Kapoor, and the always dynamic OGTC team in organizing another edition of ICAHT. And the subject we have today is very timely. Enhancing manufacturing competitiveness by looking at key competitive parameters such as product mix and supply chain agility and efficiency. In the last 2 decades, we've seen some really seismic shifts in apparel sourcing across the world. Our SG, Mr. Thakur, talked about the evolution of why WTO really didn't deliver and how FTAs came about. But the 3 real seismic shifts happened first in 2004 when the MFA, the multi-fiber arrangement came to an end, and countries were basically free to source from wherever they wanted to source. There was no quota restraining them. And in India, there were two schools of thought. There was one school of thought which said that, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to India. To the extent we were restrained by quotas, that is gone, and only the sky is the limit now. The second school of thought was the exact opposite, the pessimistic school of thought. That, quotas offered us a degree of protection, and when that cloak of protection is removed, we may not be able to compete with the other countries which are already in the fray or wish to come into the fray. And the answer, as we know, was somewhere in the middle. What actually transpired was somewhere in the middle. For the first few years, we had a spurt in apparel exports. But after that, it leveled off, and we've seen a relative stagnation in growth, especially when one compares the explosive growth witnessed by, of course, China, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. The second seismic shift was more recent, from 2020, when COVID paralyzed the world. That led to a lot of changes in the way importers, customers, even manufacturers were looking at their business. There were very conscious decisions to pull away from China. And there was a lot of talk, which only partly materialized into action, of China plus one, where India being talked of as the plus one. And now we're in the middle of the third seismic shift, the weaponization of tariffs, promulgated, of course, by the US. And while we hope and pray that at least the penal tariffs of 25% on India will be removed soon, and we also hope that the original 25% comes down, and there are some indications that it may well come down, there are so many geopolitical factors at play here that it is impossible to predict what will actually happen. But these US tariffs notwithstanding, the stars are still shining bright, according to me, for the Indian apparel, particularly the Indian apparel export-oriented industry. The long-awaited UK FTA is finally a done deal. We are well on the way to signing up with EU. We already have FTAs in place. Mr. Thakur talked about the FTA already in place. Japan, Australia, UAE, Oman is happening shortly. And once this is done, the road ahead is at least a level playing field, with competitive parameters more controllable, your prices, your deliveries, your quality, the overall user experience you give to a customer. Those are more within our control, and if we cannot compete on that, we have nobody to blame except ourselves. So what do companies do in this uncertain situation facing us now? We have a bunch of really distinguished panelists with us. From iconic companies, Pearl Global, Brandix, Shahi Exports. Not only are these companies leaders, and not to forget Vasant, who had such a refreshing view of the way they are looking at, relative outsiders are looking at the existing business in a totally refreshingly different way. Not only are these companies leaders in India's apparel exports, but there is one thing which I find really interesting given the context in which we are today, and that is that they have a multi-country presence and they have different product capabilities. And it is in this context that I want to come to our first question to our panelists. That I'm not talking about the dire situation we have right now on US tariffs. I'm asking you to assume that US penal tariffs are removed and the 25% tariff, which is high by competitive country standards, also comes down, and if you're lucky, let's say comes down to somewhere between 15 and 20%. The UK is signed, it goes into practice next year. Let's assume the EU is also signed and gets into practice sometime next year. In that scenario, how do you see your country orientation changing? Will you be producing more in India in the above circumstances? I want to ask Pallab first. Pallab, Pearl has a multi-country presence. They're across so many of the major apparel manufacturing countries. What's Pearl likely to do in this situation?
Thank you first of all for having me on this panel. Tough question. Definitely, you see, my thought process is still a lot of bias from the sourcing point of view. I have lived most of my career as a sourcing person, and sourcing is always going to the best locations in terms of sourcing a particular product. And keeping that in mind, as if I talk of 2025, we have clear winners in form of manufacturing. And what Vasant was just talking about in the earlier discussion, that the capability that has been built up by the industry or by the countries. So here we have at this point of time definitely what we have seen in China or in Vietnam and Bangladesh, we definitely have built up that capability quite a lot. In India we have to build up that capability, and that's why we need to take more risky decisions. We have to build up that kind of thought process and the manpower to really build it up. So till that time, yes, we can talk about the unfairness or basically the uncompetitiveness that came because of like a LPC status to Bangladesh, or duty-free status to Cambodia and Bangladesh, or some countries and all. So those with them, assumption what you're talking about, if everything becomes same, we need to catch up and build up a lot of capabilities. So yes, at Pearl, I'm also trying to build up the capabilities in India as well. So yes, so that it becomes much more level free. But yeah, in general, if you talk about it, the ecosystem that exists in other countries is at this point of time far superior compared to a country like India at this point of time. The biggest benefit that we have seen in the last few years is the state governments and the central government is very much open and have been more pro manufacturing. So that change that you're talking about is undergoing at this point of time, and if it goes off well, then definitely it will have a big play for us also.
Shiran, Brandix today operates in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, in India, if I remember correct, in Haiti also.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I missed any countries out.
Cambodia.
And Cambodia also. So you've got a terrific multi-country presence. In this happy situation that I am talking about in the future, that US penal tariffs have gone, the 25% tariffs have come down to more reasonable levels, perhaps even better than what our neighboring countries have. UK FTA has kicked in, which is pretty much going to happen. EU, which looks like it's going to happen, kicks in next year. How will that change, or how will that influence Brandix's decision? Will you end up manufacturing more in India, or are there any other things you would like to look at?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me, Brandix, for this conference. It's pretty much now, let's say, we have set up a 1,000-acre park in Morrison. Right? Then we don't have any, because we have all the setup being done from verticality, and we don't have any option rather than improving the business in here. That's yesterday also we had a kind of a leadership discussion. What the direction was from our chairman, Ashraf Forma, focus the current improvements what we need to do on the efficiency side, on the loss side, wastage side, and improving the talent and all those things. Give us the decision on to work out the tariff. We are moving forward with India. Recent past, we have got the approval for the DGTA, and products are looking at for how are we going to produce from the DTA plant. At the same time, the scale what we have built inside the park. Right now, let's say we are the, I don't know, right now, we are the largest manufacturer for boxer. Basically, one plant, I have in Vizag, basically per day we are producing around 170,000 boxes per day. And the panty plant, we are producing 170,000 Victoria's Secret panty at this moment. Right? And the Intimates plant, bra, which is producing for the PVH and Victoria's Secret bra. We are producing around 50,000 pieces per day. And we have another full vertical setup, Uniqlo plant, which is multi-product, starting from underwear to boxer to t-shirt. That is fully integrated with the part. That is how we allow the customer. And having that scale, having that capability, yes, the entire board focus is to moving within India. If the tariff will get sorted out, I think the opportunities are really high for us to improve in India with the facility what we have inside the park and the setup and the scale and the speed.
I'm moving slightly away from my agenda to question you a little more on this. One great thing that Brandix has done is that you have brought in products into India which India was not very well known for. For example, lingerie. What you're doing for Victoria's Secret, etc. in Visakhapatnam, or what MAS is doing in Chennai. Previously, there are very few plants. India is not known for those products. There may be a great demand for those products, but we never had at least the perception was that we never had a competitive capability in doing those products. You've proven it otherwise. How do your efficiencies, overall costs of manufacturing, quality parameters in your Indian plant compare with those in other countries where these products are being manufactured, like Sri Lanka or Cambodia or Bangladesh?
Actually, Banga we are not producing the intimates and underwear, and it's basically with MAs we are producing in Sri Lanka. Yes, the quality and the efficiency wise at the beginning, when we are set up in the park in 2007, yes, we had an issue. But we had a kind of a plan how are we going to grow the business, mainly for the BS, and it was a kind of a competitive deal with the MS and Brandix, how are we going to get the business from them. And basically at the beginning we strengthened the Sri Lankan technical capability, starting from mechanical to the technical and every aspect. We have brought all this capability for the Sri Lanka, from Sri Lanka to the YSET, and we have set up the entire talent pool there, and then from that gradually we basically build up the capability, focusing only for that category, because we were very clear from the beginning itself. We are focusing the underwear to the entire part. That focus was, I think, build up the capability to take to compete the talent with the Sri Lanka and the rest of the country.
And did your Vizag plant come on the same parity, or at least roughly the same parity when it comes to quality and cost of production in Sri Lanka?
Yes, there were certain issues we had at the beginning, but now let's say touchwood, if we discuss about my B1 pioneer plant and B2 boxer plant, compared to Sri Lanka, now they are doing much higher efficiency than Sri Lanka.
I think that's a especially important thing, because just see what Brandix did. They had a core capability in that area, very good relationship with the customer, very good technical understanding, but they came into India, no capability of making, everything had to be trained, no supply chain, everything has to be imported.
Yes, at the beginning.
Worked with all the problems of logistics, etc., which we always talk about. And still over a period of time, and I'm sure there's a lot more we can learn from this example, over a period of time I've created a capability there where I'm delighted to hear it even exceeds Sri Lanka in quality and in perhaps in overall costs. This is an example which perhaps India can think of following in so many other product categories where we think we have there's a basic potential worldwide, but India is not competing in that. This could be a great act to follow. Vasant, you made this very interesting comment on flying geese. And just to expand on that so everybody knows, these flying geese, they fly in a V-shaped formation. And the way they work is, so many studies have proven that aerodynamically it's the most efficient way to fly. And the goose which is right at the leader, it keeps moving and some other goose will take its place. And that's what keeps the whole formation moving. And this flying geese model is especially very interestingly applied to apparel manufacturing, and I have not seen that before. Given what we've just heard, and in this what should I say, optimistic but eminently achievable scenario which I am talking about, which may happen in only the next few months. Do you see India taking pole position in the flying east model amongst the other countries? Not immediately, but in the medium to long term?
I'll give you another example, and Gautam, I'm sure you'll also relate to this. Bags as a category was something that was pure Cambodia, Indonesia, Vietnam, until 5 years back was, 7 years back along, if not a large category. Today we are proud to say that for Michael Kors, at least for the camera bags that's made, it's been well established that just the costing from an efficiency standpoint, just output per line standpoint, just because of doing it same time again and again over the last 7 years, our output in this category is much better than Cambodia, Indonesia and Vietnam. And this was a number you're aware of where the customer themselves acknowledged despite it being a relatively new category 7 years back. So I think having said that, I think that it's a function of time. And as long as you're ready to give that amount of time, I am very sure that India, from being more basic-led in the pole position, going into slightly more technical, higher SAM, higher complex categories is only going to go forward. And we have seen proof of it. Yes, probably for the first 3-4 years it wasn't ideal, but now today we know that we benchmark with other global countries. Having seen that, quite confident on the long-term aspiration towards what we want to do in India. We also, you're also aware, we have taken some land parcels in MP. We know that there are certain categories where you will need some government fillip to help you get there faster. So I think with a combination of that, I don't think our production from India is only going to go up 30-40% year on year. The choice of category will obviously evolve and we'll get into slightly more and more complex categories. And there is no doubt that even with the 20% tariff and removing the other tariff out of the picture, the penalty 25%, still sure that just for the stability and the availability of labor and the fair price that you expect to India to maintain compared to competitiveness that's today a problem in China, Vietnam, etc. I don't think there's going to be a challenge in growth in manufacturing in India in the apparel fashion sector for the next 10 years.
Connected to what we talked about just now, that all you gentlemen or your companies produce different products in the different countries. What influences your product mix decision in particular countries? And to the extent duties is one factor, once duties stabilize, what will you choose to produce in India and why in India? Pallab?
I think India is ready to produce any kind of product at this point of time. We have done outerwear, we have done knits, we have done synthetic knits, activewear. So it is definitely there. The challenge that comes in is yes, the ecosystem which makes it much more competitive so that you can start really scaling up at a very high rate, at a very fast rate. Or you're focused, like for example, as Vasant is saying, that take one particular category of product and really build it up. Like the Brandix example is also similar. So yes, I think we need to, because if I look back, according to me, the history of the apparel industry out here in India, for a very long time it was very India-specific product that India was marketing to the world. And only in the last couple of decades we are trying to do other products and bringing in the basic core products also into India. Yes, whatever is the product, if we can build up that capability and the capacity, definitely we can win. We have all the mix in India. It's on the business to take that, be committed to it, take that hit in maybe the initial years and have that vision very clear, okay, this is what's going to happen in 3 or 5 years' time and win. Just like example like Brandix or like the OfBusiness that we're talking about. I think that's kind of, more and more repeats of that happen. So in our business also we have taken certain product categories and really focused on it and it's giving the result.
Thanks, Pallab. Shiran, again to do some crystal ball gazing into the future. If you're sitting in Ashraf's seat, and you have to decide what product mix decisions you can put in India going forward, assuming these happy conditions which I talked about, what will you choose to produce in India and why? You've given us a great example of you brought in a brand new category which India had really no competitive capability in, but you've done a great job in that. Going forward, would you like to bring in other product categories into India, given the external factors I've talked about?
Basically, the current skill already base is there for the underwear, but as I said, the opportunity what we are seeing with the Uniqlo, we are building up the t-shirt skills, that category inside the park. That's the focus.
These are established categories in India: t-shirts, underwear, boxers, etc. Any new product categories you like you brought in lingerie? Any new product categories which India may not be doing much of, but may have the basic capability?
Right now, as a strategy, we have not thought through, because the kind of a capability built up inside the park, we are basically focusing how are we going to vertically integrate it. That also we are looking at one aspect. Otherwise, if we focus only the product category which we can cater within the park, that some kind of opportunities we are losing there. That's the
I appreciate. I'll come back to you on that when we talk of verticality. But Deepak from Shahi has been fiercely loyal to India as a production base. I think perhaps, I don't know the exact number, but I may be correct in saying about 90% of what Shahi is manufacturing today is manufactured in India, and perhaps something, the balance 10% maybe in countries like Bangladesh. What determines what you manufacture in Bangladesh vis-a-vis what you manufacture in India? Because currently you have the same capability of that same product can be done in India or in Bangladesh. What makes you decide to go to Bangladesh for a particular product?
Thank you for inviting me here to the panel. And I think it's a very interesting conversation, and I got a fresh new perspective from all the panelists. Shahi, as what you are saying, Mr. Gautam, is quite a big setup, and it's a board-driven organization. So every decision which is taken, which actually filters onto the board, and then all the perspective is being taken, and then we take a decision. And over a period, as you were saying that, yes, Shahi has been fiercely loyal to Indian manufacturing, and it has been now, I've spent now more than 15 years in Shahi at this moment. And I've seen in the board meets also, there is a fierce loyalty towards, yes, Indian manufacturing. As apparel in this past 15 years, this past decade, costing has one of the big driving factors in the complete apparel industry. And second, the talent pool, the workers, the availability of workers in certain areas like all the states. It also has been a very, very big factor. So now, since central government and the state governments have shown a huge interest and they have been supporting the apparel business to a very large level, it has encouraged us to diversify in various states like Odisha, MP and other states. But yes, in middle, yes, availability of talent pool, workers, and of course pricing also has been a key component in which we have experimented certain production in Bangladesh. But I would like to take this discussion just to your previous question also. This complete tariff thing has actually instilled a good element in our business also. Suddenly, I've seen with this complete chaos, the pressure is being felt by everyone in the organization, even the units. As the size increases in the organization, there is a lot of compartmentalization. People and the functions, they move away from the challenges which the organization face, and divisions like us, which drives the people engagement, we have a huge fight to integrate people and the units to the main challenges. But this complete tariff thing has suddenly brought in such a huge seriousness in people. We have seen in certain units, and they have actually shown a remarkable improvement in the efficiencies, the outputs. I think that ownership has suddenly come up. So, but having said that, coming to your current question, Shahi is now with the expansion in the states, we still, as of now, my observation till now is We are still focused on India as a manufacturing place, and all the plants which are still on the grounds and expansion is quite India oriented, because we have seen a good talent in the states like Orissa and other states, which is actually encouraging us to expand more within India itself.
I'm going to take off from what Pallab said and Vasant had just indicated also in his earlier talk, that in fact, let me try to connect the dots out here. Shiran just mentioned that they brought in a new product category successfully to India, but it may have taken months or years for it to stabilize to come to a particular level. And they had the advantage of bringing in a Sri Lankan talent pool to establish norms of manufacturing, quality, processes, etc. in India. All this time, you incur comparative losses in the sense that your cost of production are much higher. So it takes time to stabilize. You have to have the stomach to be able to absorb those losses by looking at it in the long term. But this is where the point which Pallab made and which Vasant also made really comes in. Today, state governments are offering phenomenal subsidies, really phenomenal subsidies, which helps companies in India to absorb those short to medium term losses in bringing even new categories into India. And when we are doing our calculation, that must be taken into account. Vasant, anything you would like to add to that? In terms of, specifically in terms of new categories which could come into India, where the short term or medium term losses could be offset by the state and central government subsidies we are getting?
Yeah, I think two categories that we are bullish on is footwear as a category. We think also thanks to the government with BIS that a lot of your wear came into footwear as a category over the last 2 years. There is a lot of impetus, and you would have obviously read about more than 20 Korean, Taiwanese partners asking to set shop in India. I think that's one category. But I must add to one point here is all of us on this in this room, many of us have in multiple categories, right? So even in 4 categories that we are, which is summer, women dresses, etc., the headroom for growth today doesn't seem like a bottleneck. Over multiple communications with buyers over the last 1 week, even US buyers, given the tariff constraints, because many of these, the printed dresses, etc., are China plus, and there is still no competition from Bangladesh or other locations. I think there is headroom for growth even in some of our strong competitive categories that India will see, where you can grow 20-30% in some of these categories. Now, beyond the point, it's a capital allocation problem when there are core styles which are anyway profitable, and a lot of people know, and in fact, if you talk about the Okla team which is sitting here, they know that in many of these categories the margins are double-digit. So you can obviously grow in core competencies. You have cash flow that is being generated from these businesses. And then I'm not talking about government subsidy, which will be a lever at the top, but a lot of cash flow that is being generated from profitable India core categories like women dresses, printed styles, etc., can also be looked at sort of reinvesting into these moonshot categories, the names that I mentioned. So you must not look at it as a category problem, but look at it as a company's framework. There are great profitable categories, that capital goes into slightly less profitable categories from the long term. So even from that standpoint, I think the math often makes sense. And then over and above that, extremely good government incentives that you mentioned in the eastern parts of India and the central parts of India make it lucrative towards looking at its standpoint. But never to forget that there is good cash flow coming from great categories where India also has its strength. So you'll have to look at it as an overall picture.
Connected to what we just talked about, which product area do you think India has a potential?
What kind of automation you do? Automation has to focus on reskilling. Thanks to the gig workers, like what we are reading now, that in China there are 200 million people who are every day morning looking at their phone and knows where to go for the job, and do a stint of only a few months. So I think India has that number as only about less than 10 million. Most of that 10 million workers are only driving scooties and delivering from one place to the other. China has gone from there to now also manufacturing. This gig economy, what you're calling about. So that's something that we have to also think of future, what's going to happen. And how do we do that? Yes, if you go to a state like Bihar, Orissa or Madhya Pradesh, there are a lot of population that's there in India, like you can employ them in your factory and do it. But yeah, it's better to get ready because things might change in the next 4-5 years in a big way. And if I don't know, today the world is all about protectionism, but this might also switch very quickly. Like things are moving very fast nowadays. So let's see. I think it's all important at this moment in time is to build up that capability. So category of product like outerwear, which is limited in India, only the northern states need a lot of outerwear. Or like the activewear, which is everyone needs it. Product like a shirt, and I'm very comfortable in the summer season, which you couldn't even think of a few years back. So those kind of things are coming into the play, and that something has to be developed and manufactured in India as well.
Again, taking off from what you're saying, Pallab, from a supply chain point of view, what should India do to improve the efficiency and agility of its supply chain? For example, towards this end, do you think verticality is important? You mentioned that verticality helped you to stabilize manufacturing in a particular location. To that extent, you were less dependent on getting it from outsiders. What are the, including verticality, any other messages you may have for the Indian textile industry, where we are reliant on somebody else? Any messages for them on what they should be doing to support the apparel manufacturing industry?
Basically, now, why I am saying the verticality is really important for us at this moment. The customer like Uniqlo with us because of that. Because the kind of their order placement model and the kind of they have a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 orders. When it comes to phase 3, it's a read and react. Then it's the read and react. They will place the order with how the market is behaving. That's only 20 days. Then it's a fabric manufacturing to the design. Then if you don't have that vertical setup within the park, we don't have Uniqlo. That's a kind of a potential what we are having. I mean, and even India is having. I think we have seen the numbers. There is a lot of potential is there. That's something India has to be looked at. The kind of a park like us, if you can set up the verticality setup to improve the efficiency and reduce the lead time, that will be really beneficial. And now let's say for the B2 plant, we are manufacturing for the CKPVH boxer. Even though we are producing 70-80% for the USA, we are retaining the business in India. Even the tariff is going to be 50%, with the kind of a discount, we are going to retain the business. The reason is the kind of investment what we have made in here and the skill. At the same time, the kind of a benefit what we are getting with the vertical setup. That give us a kind of a advantage to retain the customer even in this situation. That's the basic thing.
So interestingly, Shiran talks about verticality being important and being absolutely essential for certain buyers, like he mentioned Uniqlo. To my knowledge, Pearl is not vertical, but Shahi is vertical across knitwear and wovens to also a significant extent. Pallab, do you think lack of verticality affects your business going forward? Is this something which you would like to address going forward?
No. I feel that it's the ecosystem that matters. So everything cannot be, and no, I cannot be an expert of everything. So is my team. So yes, like if I have a lot of capex, potential like which you can spend, then maybe it can work out as a different business. But otherwise, it's better to combine hands with other specialty who has experienced that. So I'm into that phase as of now from Pearl.
But Shahi is exactly the opposite, going extremely vertical.
Yes.
Any comments on that?
Actually, going vertical has helped us in multiple ways. First of all, in various categories, it has reduced the lead time drastically. And the biggest hedge gives us in terms of the profits. Like what Vasant exactly says, that a higher margin in one category can actually hedge you against the products. So this actually helps us to experiment with the new buyers also. Now there are buyers with us now today who order as low as 1,000 pieces. So it helps us to entertain those category of customers also. So being vertical helps us to entertain a vast, a range of customers in terms of the profitability also. And secondly is the confidence of the marketing team. So in certain categories, they can actually give a commitment and it also gives them a leeway to play around with the categories in terms of being vertical.
Yeah, adding to that, having a vertical setup, you don't want to be invest for everything. But now, let's say in our part, now TJ is a one fabric supplier for us, not Brandix. It's a partnership. And Pioneer is the elastic supplier. Vardhaman is a thread supplier. The ITL and show to show is the other supplier for a label. There are people. If you are in the vertical setup, then you have that benefit. Now, say for example, now recent part, the kind of experience we have went through with the VS. Basically in Sri Lanka and India, we are producing the bigger number for the VS underwear. We had went ahead with the ordering for the VS elastic with the stretch line. Stretch line went for a blackout situation for the last 3 months. Then it's almost the backlog came around 1 million meters. We are not able to deliver the customer delivery, but since Pioneer is with us, then we save a lot of deliveries and their freights because of the Pioneer setup was there inside the park. That's the
So I think that's the point Pallab made, is that perhaps verticality is not essential as long as you have an ecosystem. And I just refer this to OGTC. OGTC is a very interesting, very well-knit cluster of manufacturers. And if you can work with the manufacturers to get together and create this ecosystem of suppliers around you in some kind of a cluster, that could be a step forward.
One small thing I would like to add upon that, that'll be a quick one. Now, as we are moving from the fast fashion products, it is the customers are slowly going away from it. Now, customers and all the, abroad, foreign countries, now the industry is laying a lot of focus upon the value systems, the way it is being produced, the complete supply chain, and the complete transparency in the supply chain. So being vertical saves us, from that compliance standards also.
Colonel Kapoor, we have the bell ring of price. Do we have 3-4 minutes more? Okay, so I'll just come to the last question, which I'd like to specifically have Deepak answering to begin with and pass it on to the rest of the panelists. That how have Indian managers performed in different countries and in different cultural contexts? And will you look at Indian managers as a talent pool for your manufacturing operations overseas?
Again, it is purely subjective to the organization, I would say. Now, Shahi being a large setup, for us, being aligned with the complete system is a very, very critical component. So we have tried this complete stuff. Like we had offices in America, in North America, in some of the Hong Kong, and so when we posted and we created a talent pool, localized, so to bring them into the alignment with the main body, it took us a lot of pain. So now today, if we see our Bangladesh offices, factories, so we have this complete pool sourced from the India itself. So it helps us, first of all, it gives us agility and flexibility to replace in case there is a need. Second, alignment is never a problem. And I think we would continue to source from India, because today, if you see all the talent pool, they are very flexible. They are well traveled, so they are able to fit culturally very well into American, European, or our Southeast Asian, diaspora. So that's.
I can address that question to you, Shiran. You mentioned in setting up lingerie in Vizag, you had to bring in a talent pool of engineers from Sri Lanka. Today, have we created that talent pool in India? So can you think of sending talent from India to your plants overseas also?
Actually, 3 years back, that's the reason I came back to the Vizag as a CW to turn around the transformation from Sri Lanka to back to the local talent. Let's say for the 2022 December, we had around closer to 200 expats, including all GUs. Yeah, I'm operating 5 plants. Almost all the plants having 4,000 people running for double shift, and almost all including HR, was from Sri Lanka. Then if I say the numbers today, I have only one GM from expats and only 38 people from Sri Lanka. Rest of the all are from local talent running the show and giving the challenge to the Sri Lankan efficiency and the quality and the kind of running a Uniqlo plant for a 0.01 quality level, running for a 65% efficiency is not easy. dedicated plant for entire Uniqlo. I think Shahi know about how the difficult running the Uniqlo. We have one plant is totally running, marketing to operation. There is 2 Sri Lankan expats only there in that plant, but they are delivering for the 65% efficiency, 0.01 level quality level for the Uniqlo. That's the talent we are having right now. At the same time, I can proudly say there are a lot of talent. I have been pumped to the Africa from local talent, and for the because there was a time people got stagnated. They are looking for after 3-4 years they want to move up from the ladder. If there are opportunities there for them, then there were certain demands came to us. Can we release this talent back to the other companies in other countries? Yes, we have given that opportunity. No any people we are going to stop in our system. But yes, there are a lot of talents now within the park and within the region who can compete with the rest of the part of the people.
Thank you. We've got to wrap up now, but if I had to summarize, I think it's been a very interesting discussion. We're fortunate to have 4 very interesting panelists from very iconic companies. Just to dispel, I think it's helped to dispel some of the myths that we are sometimes bound by. But before that, I think we should not get too overly depressed by the current situation on tariffs. We're all reasonably confident, and this is not just based on what we personally think, but based on conversations with some of the biggest customers in the US, that this is not going to last for a long time. It should be over sooner, not later. So let's not get too carried away by what's happening today, even though it's a real dire situation today, and I absolutely appreciate that. Secondly, I think the future is bright for Indian apparel. Once this USA situation is sorted out, with what's happened in UK and what is happening in EU, we get a level playing field with the other countries, and after that, it is our opportunity to lose. Third point, which has been repeatedly pointed out, you can think of migrating or going beyond the existing so-called core products of India, or so what Vasant referred to as the typical Indian handwriting. That is important. We should leverage that. We should expand that. But there is absolutely no reason why we can't get into brand new areas as long as you have customers who you think can take that product from you. It's a question of time, as Brandix has shown, of how you can leverage existing capability into the specific needs of that particular product, and to the extent it will be more require more investment and you incur higher costs while doing that. There's a lot of subsidies from central government and state government which you can count on. All this, I think, if taken together, if somebody connects the dots, we are looking at a good future going ahead. Thank you all very much, and thank you all very much for joining us.
Request all dignitaries to be seated on the stage.
I hope we have some time for questions and answers. If there are any questions you'd like to address, please raise those questions, and if you want to name the specific panelists you want to address it to, go ahead. You can see Prashant looking for a mic.
Pallab, to you, while we know from Brandix to Shahi, everybody is going to go about India, right? So how do you think that large-scale capacities and big setup, maybe multiplying it multiple times, can happen for Pearl in India?
So in India, Pearl has not been so big. We did about $140 million last year. My objective was to get to cross the $300 million mark. So we have at least building up the capability for that in India. More or less we are ready. If things, inshallah, if that works out. So naturally, things can move very fast. Otherwise, when you compare it with the other ecosystems which are like well established, so yes, like why should I as a business not look into that or not take the advantage of it? And if I look at Pearl's history, Pearl has been in multiple countries since 2002. So that ecosystems are very strong in the other countries. So yeah, wherever I'm finding that opportunity, I have to use that and build up the capability in those countries as well. So that's how our decision making are at this point.
Thanks. And Gautam, what I could get from the panel is that it's very specific to company. You can't generalize India. You can be one of the biggest in India and you can still be the smallest in trade. I think, do you take this point from your panel? I could take this.
That statement which you made will be applicable not only to the apparel industry, but in so many situations across the world. You cannot generalize India. It is a very company-specific experience. But what you can generalize is that there is going to be a significant opportunity in front of us right now. How you leverage that opportunity will depend perhaps company to company. But that opportunity exists, that opportunity is there before us, and it is up to us, company to company, to leverage that.
You see on the dais is represented by the top end of the Indian apparel industry, 1,000 crores and up. But majority of this, our Indian 16 billion industry is dominated by the MSMEs, which are almost 90%. So my question is, Vasant, do you think it's a constraint for India or in going forward, or it will be an advantage?
A very interesting question. So, I think every SME, as I said, has their unique handwriting or unique customer setting, for want of another word. Now, if platforms like us can put it together, then the sum of the parts will be much larger than the individual parts. So I don't see it as a bottleneck. But I do believe that you need a unifying factor. We talk about how even within India we talk about how there is a different women dresses handwriting in the north, and we talk about how there is more shirts and men's dresses handwriting in south. But the question is how many north-south joint ventures have happened where you can between two customers of yours change the two products that exist. So I think fundamentally there is more, the potential is very large, because customers also beyond a point want stability. That's the only thing customers hunt for, right? As long as you're stable, they are happy. So I think that opportunity is there, but I think it's more a limitation in our mindset to collaborate, not want to be in our own limited lens, secretive lens, and not want to work together to, because you think that it's not an infinite game. We believe that it's a loss of the other person versus, a loss of yours. So I think it's more a mindset issue. If people can move beyond the mindset issues and look at more collaborating, I think that will sort of amplify the growth that we want itself much faster. And we are seeing the trend of more people sort of doing that.
Let me add to that. The point is very well taken, and it's a very, very good question. But I can speak for at least 3 companies here. I don't know Brandix's origins, etc. And Vasant, OfBusiness strategy has been completely different, of not organic growth or not starting from scratch, but acquiring existing, hopefully well-run companies. But whether it's Shahi, whether it is Pearl, whether it is Matrix, and I have known these companies for the last 35-40 years that I have been in business, they all started as MSMEs. And so yesterday's MSME is today's whatever 500,000, $1 billion plus companies. They were MSMEs not so long back. So MSMEs can aspire to that sort of growth. That's one. Second, if for whatever reason you are constrained, you are not interested, sometimes there's a lack of interest in growing. I'm saying the opportunity exists. But if you're constrained, if you want to remain in a particular size and scale, then you get into a kind of a boutique kind of business. There has to be something special about, some USP about your company. And then you're in that group. You're perfectly happy to be in. If you're looking at India really scaling up and growing big, You need people. You need 10, 15 Shahis in India. $15 billion companies in India. And that's what's going to make India reach the kind of potential which we know we are capable of.
Thank you, Mr. Nair, and our eminent panelists for rich insights and practical perspectives. I request you to please stay with us on the dais for the Momento presentation. May I now request Mr. Amarjeet Singh, MD, Indigo Apparel, to kindly present Momento. To kindly present Momento to our moderator, Mr. Gautam Nair. To our panelist, Mr. Pallab Banerjee. To another panelist, Mr. Shiran Boteju. And next panelist, Mr. Deepak Rautela. Thank you, Mr. Sridhar.
We have a group photograph. Gautam sir. Group photograph. Please join.